It's not just a room, it's a haven, an escape. It's an amazing place. Let's celebrate. Every stretch, every spoon, every wish upon the moon. Night owls, early birds, crowd surfs. Every day, every night. Amazing.
It's amazing what a little snooze can do.
A LISTNR production. Hey, it's Laura Pettigrew. No word yet on when a Fraser Coast Regional Council Customer Service Centre will reopen after an asbestos scare. The deadly material was found in dust that came from works being carried out above Maryboro's office. It's being cleaned. Briefly, a man in his 40s has avoided serious injuries after a rollover near Gin Gin this morning. Meanwhile, Queensland is entering the holiday season with a higher than usual road death toll. As of late Thursday, 269 lives have been lost on our roads in 2025, 9 more than this time last year. 71 are from the North Coast Police region. And Maryborough Aquatic Centre will reopen today as staff still come to terms with the death of a popular swim coach. The pool was closed across the weekend after Ray Nicola, who worked at the council pool, died in an alleged hit and run at Point Vernon on Friday morning. A 20-year-old has been charged with dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death. The man charged over the alleged hit and run that killed a beloved swim coach last week won't be back in court until next year. The 20-year-old Harvey Bay man was charged with dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death and failure to remain at the scene after Ray Nicola died on Friday. His matters were adjourned in the Harvey Bay Magistrates Court yesterday. He didn't apply for bail. The state government has backed up its calls for the federal government to help fix the aged care crisis with stats. Here in the Wide Bay, 79 older patients have been cleared to go home, but are still taking up hospital beds with a shortage in aged care. Over 3,000 patients are trapped statewide. And schoolies have certainly had a culture shift, with a run club to be part of the Year 12 celebrations kicking off this weekend. Uni SQ psychologist Victoria Barclay-Timmis says kids appear to be less concerned about drinking culture than previous generations, adding Wide Bay school leavers could head overseas. The Education Minister has slammed the state's teachers for planning a 24-hour strike for next Tuesday. Jared Blay says it'll impact Year 11 exams.
Which will impact senior exams, particularly for Year 11 students. That does greatly concern the government because of the impact we'll have on students across Queensland, particularly as they're approaching their Year 11 exams and the mental state and welfare of the students.
The union says teachers have been left with no other option but to walk off the job after the state government refused to reopen wage talks. Nearly $11,000 has been raised for the family of a beloved swim coach killed in an alleged hit and run last week. Ray Nicola died after he was allegedly hit on the Esplanade at Point Vernon. A 20-year-old man has been charged with dangerous driving causing death and failing to remain at the scene. And Monrepo's Turtle Sands Nature Resort has been named as Queensland's best new tourism business at the state's Tourism Awards.
Maryborough's Adelaide Street is a step closer to going one way. Fraser Coast Regional Council's agreed to carry out official consultation before a potential trial between Kent and Alina Streets. Another report will also be prepared, including the estimated cost. A welcome boost for the region's irrigators, securing a 15% discount on water costs. Burnett MP Stephen Bennett says it'll benefit more than 1,000 properties who draw down from the Bundaberg irrigation scheme.
By locking in water prices over the next 2 years, a $51 million investment is giving our primary producers long-term certainty, something this region has needed after years of decline and neglect.
And higher power prices, thousands of job losses and more frequent and intense natural disasters. That's Federal Environment Minister Murray Watt's dire prediction for Queensland if we walk away from net zero. It's part of a key speech the Senator will give today, where he'll also describe the Coalition's new energy policy as anti-Queensland.
Concerns continue around e-scooter and e-bike safety across Queensland. 12 people have died from e-mobility devices so far this year, including children. It comes as the state government has shut down a motion to fast-track its response while it waits for a report to be handed down, despite calls from the opposition, doctors and motoring bodies. Monrepo's Turtle Sands Holiday Park has been given the green light to go ahead with upgrades. Under the plans, the site that was earmarked for a backpacker's bunkhouse and car parking will be transformed into 11 new 3-bedroom cabins with beach views, plus 5 more with pool views and 9 glamping tents. And a heads up from Telstra about temporary disruptions to mobile services in the Maryborough area starting today. The telco is upgrading its mobile base station over the next week or so to improve capacity and increase download speeds. Any 000 calls from a Telstra mobile will connect to another network.
Australia's health ministers are outraged by a letter from the Prime Minister asking them to spend less on hospitals. Anthony Albanese demanding they rein in spending if they want a funding deal on it. There's mounting pressure on Susan Lee's leadership following claims some Liberal MPs are shifting their support to Andrew Hastie. It says new polling shows the coalition's primary vote has plummeted to 24% under Lee's leadership, but she's not too fazed by the results.
I'm not interested in polling, and I'm not interested in public commentary about polling. What I'm interested in is this plan that delivers affordable energy for households.
Tributes are flowing for Paralympic gold medalist Paige Greco, who's tragically died at the age of 28. And some schools in the ACT will reopen tomorrow, but 26 will remain closed over asbestos concerns. It's after coloured sand was found to potentially contain the harmful mineral. A nationwide recall is in place for several products sold at retailers. A South African man who attended a neo-Nazi protest in Sydney earlier this month has been taken into immigration detention. The Home Affairs Minister anticipates Matthew Gruter will be gone very soon. A 28-year jail sentence has been handed to Lachlan Young, the man accused of brutally murdering his ex-partner Hannah Maguire in Victoria. Hannah's mum Debbie has spoken outside of court.
We're relieved that the court has delivered its sentence today. While nothing can bring back what we've lost or erase the pain we continue to carry, today's outcome is an important step in our journey towards healing.
If you need help, call 1-800-RESPECT. Turns out the discovery of asbestos in some kids' coloured sand products was a complete fluke. According to the ABC, it was picked up in a lab that tests samples for staff in training. And most economists think it's unlikely interest rates will move next year after reviewing the RBA's November meeting minutes. But not capital economics. They think we could see 2 rate cuts in the second half of next year. Russell Crowe's described the late John Laws as a loyal, warm and kind man while speaking at a state funeral in Sydney today. The Hollywood actor says he's living up to a promise he made to the radio giant a long time ago to deliver his eulogy.
And then he just kept on living. Year after year after year. I mean, he lived so long that I thought at one point I might have lost the gig.
Briefly, the Epstein files are on track to be made public after a huge vote in Congress. Back home, wages are still rising at 3.4% a year, matching forecasts, and the Prime Minister is using the Coalition's controversial net zero stance to try and connect with younger voters by making a popular social media reference.
Perhaps the policy's been written by kids. If you go into a local school here, primary school, you'll have local kids stand up and they'll say 6-7, 6-7, it's a big thing. 6-7, what does it mean? It means nothing. A bit like the pamphlet that they've put out.
Prime Minister believes Australia has landed a win out of the COP shake-up, even though the main event is heading to Turkey instead of Adelaide. Anthony Albanese says taking charge of the negotiations and holding a Pacific pre-COP puts island nations and climate pressure points right in the spotlight.
But Australia, by having the COP presidency for negotiations, will be in a very strong position, and some might argue in the strongest possible position, because we will benefit from having Pacific issues and the issues confronting Australia.
Police are digging into a string of late-night shootings after a house came under fire before another hit a caravan in Sydney's west. Under-16s are getting a final heads-up from Meta, told they've got 2 weeks to download or ditch their data before access is cut. And a twist in the case of Arnie the dog, with police saying the vehicle was never pinched after all. In Queensland, officers allege the owner parked in Fortitude Valley and left Arnie behind.
Mother of an officer killed in the 2022 Williambilla shooting says she's disappointed with the Queensland coroner's findings. The extremists behind the brutal killings have been ruled psychotically unwell, all sharing a delusional disorder. The state's Deputy Police Commissioner Cheryl Scanlon, on the other hand, is happy with the findings.
We're very pleased with those. Like any inquest, there's always findings that help to improve the safety of the community and of our officers. and that's our number one priority.
An ex-Attorney General is urging the federal government to form an Australian Republic. Mark Dreyfus thinks it's time for Australia to break free of its constitutional ties with the UK. Federal police are honing in on toxic online behaviour, handing out several charges for threatening political figures. Across New South Wales and Victoria, 3 men, including a neo-Nazi, are now facing court. And northern coastal communities in the Northern Territory are already feeling the impacts of tropical cyclone Fina, which is tipped to make landfall overnight.
3 Sunshine Coast high schools have collectively decided to ban all e-bikes and e-scooters from campus next year. A letter has been sent home to parents of students at Coolum State High School, Noosa District State High and Sunshine Beach State High School. It explains that in light of safety concerns and the fire risk posed by lithium battery storage, the ban will take effect from next year, giving parents and students time to plan ahead. Queensland is entering the holiday season with a higher than usual death toll. As of last Thursday, 269 lives have been lost on our roads this year, 9 more than at the same time last year, 71 from the North Coast Police region, which includes the Sunshine Coast. The Sunshine Coast featured 6 times at the Queensland Tourism Awards on Friday night, collecting gold, silver and bronze trophies in a number of categories against the best in the state. They included Montville's Narrows Escape Rainforest Retreat, Mullaney Botanic Gardens and Bird World, Mullaney Cheese Cafe, Saltwater Eco Tours, the Country House at Hunchy and the Noosa Triathlon. Tourism and Events Minister and member for Glasshouse Andrew Powell says the awards concluded Tourism Week, which draw industry leaders together to collaborate through Destination Q.
The tourism industry is just so vital to the Queensland economy. 1 in 11 jobs around the state. That's mum and dad businesses, small family businesses that put jobs into local communities. So vital. And we're on the cusp of something really exciting in Queensland with Destination 2045, our green and gold runway in the lead up to the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Watch what's going to happen.
Australia's health ministers are outraged by a letter from the Prime Minister asking them to spend less on hospitals. Anthony Albanese demanding they rein in spending if they want a funding deal honoured. It comes as the Queensland Premier this week called on the federal government to help our state's aged care crisis. David Crisafulli is demanding a national plan to help stranded elderly patients who can't leave hospital until aged care spots become available. 74 patients are on the Sunshine Coast and nearly 2/3 are elderly patients waiting for residential aged care. Local member for Nicola Marty Hunt says the federal government needs to help speed up the funding process.
This is about health systems in crisis and under pressure because the federal government is not taking responsibility for what they control.
The Business Chamber has found Queensland businesses face a $15 billion red tape bill this year. The average cost of compliance per business is now $30,000. CEO Heidi Cooper says more than 80% have found it hinders growth and productivity.
1 in 3 businesses employ someone specifically for managing regulatory compliance. That's someone who is not contributing to the business, serving customers or clients, or generating revenue.
Police in Nambour are trying to identify a man believed to be responsible for a number of recent graffiti offences in town. They've released CCTV of the accused, who allegedly walked to the rear side of a business on Curry Street and spray painted a door around 7 a.m. on Tuesday, October 14. The man's described as Caucasian with dark hair and slim build and was wearing a black branded jacket and black pants. Anyone who may have relevant information is asked to contact police. And the biggest headache for Unity water contractors are tree roots. It's been revealed tree root intrusion is the biggest culprit for wastewater pipe blockages, with 1 in 5 blockages caused by tree roots in the 2024-25 financial year. Crews fixed 614 blockages caused by roots during that time, with data showing Buderim recorded the most number of blockages caused by tree root intrusion. Almost a week on since the Cyclone Alfred breakthrough at Bribie Island was plugged, and work at the site is continuing. Hall Contracting are working around the clock to ensure the northern tip of Bribie Island is strong enough to withstand any erosion during the upcoming storm season and ensure the Palmerstone Passage and Golden Beach shoreline remains protected. The work forms part of the state government's $20 million emergency works package, while the breakthrough caused by Cyclone Seth in 2022 will be maintained for the meantime until a long-term protection plan is finalised. Our Premier is set to meet with his state counterparts for crisis talks demanding the federal government acts on the aged care crisis. Council for the Australian Federation talks will be held this morning, calling for an emergency National Cabinet meeting. It comes after state government statistics revealed there are almost 74 long-stay patients in Sunshine Coast hospitals amid a shortage of aged care spots. The Education Minister has slammed teachers for planning a 24-hour strike for next Tuesday. Jared Blay, who is also the local member for Kawana, says it'll impact Year 11 exams.
Which will impact senior exams, particularly for Year 11 students. That does greatly concern the government because of the impact we'll have on students across Queensland, particularly as they're approaching their Year 11 exams and the mental state and welfare of the students.
And Sunshine Coast Council has released its updated flood maps to help residents better understand their risk ahead of storm season. The majority of the updates focus around new development areas within Aura, Bly and at Battery Hill. Locals are being advised to check out the new maps to know your property's flood risk. A second dredge will soon arrive in the Palmerstone Passage next month as emergency works progress to prepare the northern part of Bribie Island. A week ago, the second breakthrough caused by Cyclone Alfred was closed, ensuring the passage and the Golden Beach foreshore will be protected from erosion during the upcoming storm season. Deputy Premier Jared Blay has announced that repair efforts will now concentrate on closing Breakthrough 3 and reinforcing dune protection, with the state government committing an additional $25 million to deliver long-term planning for Bribie Island and the Palmerstone Passage.
These long-term solutions are not going to happen overnight, but it's important we now start planning so the residents of Golden Beach and Caloundra know that there is a plan, and that's why we're announcing an additional $25 million to start preparatory work and looking for the long-term solution. Now that's going to mean that we are going to have more engineering assessments, underground assessments, what works are required to commit to the recommendations that have been made in the final report. So look, this is just a start.
A 15-year-old boy will face the Maroochydore Children's Court next week, charged over a fatal e-bike crash which killed an 8-year-old boy at Mountain Creek. Zeke Hondo died in hospital after the crash on the bike path near the Kawana Way and Sunshine Motorway interchange on October 30. Police will allege both boys were riding illegal e-bikes. Following extensive investigations, police will allege the 15-year-old had been driving in a dangerous manner. The teenager is charged with 1 count each of dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death, unlicensed driving, driving an unregistered vehicle and an uninsured vehicle. Aussie teens will be kicked off Facebook, Instagram and Threads a week earlier than the official under-16 social media ban. Meta's making the move, telling teens they have just 2 weeks left to download or delete their data. And Robert Owen has made it to the grand final of Dancing with the Stars in the US, and are we really surprised? His fancy footwork and tricky flips again impressing judges and earning the 21-year-old a perfect score. It's now looking more likely than ever that Robert will follow in big sister Bindi's footsteps from 10 years ago and bring the Mirrorball trophy back home to Australia Zoo. Lifeguards who tried to save a man after he became caught in a rip in waters off Majimba on Wednesday afternoon are now being offered support. Lifeguards and then paramedics performed CPR on the 33-year-old for close to 40 minutes, but he couldn't be revived. A second swimmer had also got caught in the same rip, but lifeguards managed to get them back to shore safely. It comes ahead of the busiest time of year for our lifeguards, with beachgoers being asked to only swim at patrolled beaches. You'll need to make sure your devices are fully charged before flying out of Sunshine Coast Airport from next month, when new air safety rules around the use of power banks kick in. Virgin passengers will be banned from charging their power banks in flight or using them to charge personal devices from December 1st. The same restrictions apply for Qantas and Jetstar passengers from December 15. A person's been transported to hospital this morning following a pedestrian and forklift accident at a Chevelin workplace. Paramedics were called to the business just before 6 a.m, where they assessed a male patient aged in his 20s. He suffered back pain and is now stable in Scoo. And school's out forever. Sunshine Coast Year 12 students will finish up today. School leavers are expected to celebrate in their own way, as experts say they're less interested in high-risk drinking, with this year's schoolies even including a run club at the popular Gold Coast party spot.
The Ashes buzz is building in Perth as the Aussies hit Perth Stadium for their first practice ahead of this week's opener. Meanwhile, Mitch Starc has reminisced on the chaotic moments when Josh Hazlewood and Sean Abbott both copped hamstring injuries in the Sheffield Shield, ruling them both out of the first test.
Smithy's mind was racing. I think he put me quickly on ice, and I was at that stage. The rest of my quota went to 0. It was all a bit of chaos.
That audio from the Ashes Diaries, available now on the Howie Games podcast. Scott Boland's putting his faith in Brendan Doggett to step up for the Ashes opener starting in Perth this week. The call could come on Friday with Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood both already ruled out with injury. And Eli Katoa's returned to Oz after brain surgery in New Zealand, but he will not play in the 2026 season. Storm medics deeming his head knock injuries too severe to send him back on the field. The club's CEO Justin Rodsky says it's too early to determine his recovery timeline, but he'll continue treatment and testing in Melbourne. Mitchell Starc has confidence Australia will still have a strong bowling attack despite Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood both ruled out with injury. Starc, who's the last quick standing ahead of Friday's Ashes opener, says they've got the depth to cover their absence.
Sadly, injuries and fast bowling happen, and it's just so happened with 2 men down heading into the first test, but good to see the depth in the squad. So we know what Scotty Boland can do. Doggie's coming off a hot streak at the moment, and Ness has been around for a while, so it is what it is.
The Aussies had one final compulsory training session today before the first test in Perth.
Travis Head says he'll check out the wicket today at Perth Stadium before catching up with a mate, trying to fill the time to tomorrow's Ashes opener. The Aussie batter hopes they perform better than they did last summer against India.
But I think the wicket suits us really, really well if we play well, and it looks like it's going to be fast and a nice wicket to start with, and see what happens with the weather and deterioration of the wicket, but it looks good to start.
Hear every ball of the Ashes on the LISTNR app, and Sam Kerr's been left out of Chelsea's Champions League hit out with Barcelona, but the club says she's still tracking fine.
A brutal welcome to Test cricket for Jake Weatherald, knocked off his feet on the first ball, out for a duck. It follows Mitch Starc's best ever Test haul, taking 7 for 58 in just 12.5 overs at Perth Stadium.
Mitch Starc, a performance for the ages. 172, England all out. Mitch Starc, over 300 Test wickets, and he's just delivered his greatest bowling stint.
Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne are batting now. Hear every ball of the Ashes on the LISTNR app.
A freak accident at the finish line at the Noosa Hill Climb has destroyed one prized car and damaged another. The Subaru GC8 was first in line after completing the course when a large gum tree came down, crushing the vehicle. Thankfully, no one was inside at the time. And Sunshine Coast product Kaylee McEwen has been named Australia's Olympic Swimmer of the Year at the annual Industry Awards. The 24-year-old backstroke queen trains at Sippy Downs with USC Spartans, taking the Olympic Program Swimmer of the Year title for the second year in a row. USC Spartans coach Michael Sage was named Olympic Program Coach of the Year. Callum Simpson won the Paralympic Program, and fellow Sunshine Coast product Lani Pallister won the 2025 Short Course Swimmer of the Year title.
Hisense and the NRL are going big like never before. Go bigger with a Hisense TV.